The Healing Ocean, you founded Institute in Gurugram, which is doing pretty well, I believe. So, welcome to the show, and it's been a pleasure having you again.
Thank you, Akshay. Thank you very much for having me over again.
So, what's been you up to lately? I mean, since the last time we met, you were doing some consulting work, I think. So, what's new? Very good.
So, yes, I've been doing classes in hypnotherapy as usual, doing a lot of personal one-on-one sessions and doing corporate trainings as well.
Corporate trainings. So, any new gig that you have caught up with, any interacted with so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been collaborated with this organization known as the Brain Chef University, which is on the lines of the Mind Valley. And I've been doing the online courses of the angel therapy, mindfulness practices, so that we can reach the people far and wide in the world. Yes.
Apparently, imitation is a form of genius as well. Somebody very smart has said. And I've got on pretty well with that, so that works clear. Okay, so you're a healer, you're a mentor, you are a consultant, you work with corporates, private clients. You do your own, you have your own workshops ongoing. So, how do you juggle around and make it all go at once? I mean,
oh, that's a wonderful question.
Is there a schedule that you make for it, or is it just fits automatically? You know, the way you put out energy or direct, you know, in a certain way. Is it like that?
Actually, someone has said that when your passion is your work, and your work is your passion, things just happen automatically.
Right.
So, yes, I do plan, and I plan very meticulously. I'm a perfectionist from the very beginning, and it translates very beautifully from one platform to the other. So, I have private sessions which are lined up every day in a particular hour and particular slots. Corporate trainings, of course, are lined up according to the corporates, and they are also scheduled. Whenever we have a corporate full-day training, then we do not have private sessions. When we have life coaching sessions, again, those areas are very beautifully disciplined in the time slot of the week. So, in a week, it's a corporate training. Every day there is a private session. Then every month we have 2 workshops which I conduct, and there are many other workshops at the Healing Oceans which other facilitators also come in and conduct. So everything very beautifully gets amalgamated, and our passion is followed.
That's wonderful. Now, when it comes to hypnotherapy, it's a part of psychotherapy, as it says, or is it something different?
So, clinical hypnotherapy is a standalone, alternative and complementary therapy.
Okay.
Psychotherapy is a science which is coming from psychology.
Okay.
Yeah. So, they are 2 different sciences completely. However, when we talk about clinical hypnotherapy, it is more and more now advent in the Indian scenario also from the 80s.
Okay.
Psychology is a science which people practice from ages.
Indeed. So hypnotherapy would be a derivative, I would say, of psychotherapy?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. It's something, we did talk about that Mesmer pretty much pronounced ahead, and
yes,
people picked it up and worked it around.
So, clinical hypnotherapy has a different history altogether, like we discussed about the Franz Mesmer. So, it is coming from mesmerism, it is coming from the pretext that a person naturally goes into a state of trance when you are praying, when you are chanting, and when we bring it in a clinical setup for bringing about a change in a person's life, both physically and emotionally, that state is known as hypnotherapeutic trance.
Okay.
Yeah.
In therapeutic trance.
Yes.
And there are various ways you can induce that trance.
Absolutely.
Music, some vibrations that you can maybe through some energy that you can put into. No.
So clinical hypnotherapy, we do not do music or any external agent.
Okay.
Clinical hypnotherapy is done by a hypnotherapist by giving information to the mind of the client by way of a script. So that means we have a conscious and we have a subconscious mind. Now we need to reach to a state of a subconscious mind where the person is into a state of a somnambulistic trance, meaning a deep state of trance like we are sleeping. But in sleep, the conscious awareness is not at all there. However, in a hypnotherapy session, the conscious awareness is there, but it is very minimal. That means the conscious interaction to a person's own mind is very minimal, and therefore a therapist can work with the person's subconscious mind.
He can actually influence.
Right. So it is just between the therapist and the client, and we do not use music or anything external. It's just a script and a way of inducing a trance by giving excessive information units.
That's fascinating. I mean, that makes sense, when you fill in the jar with some new information, and that eventually makes sense. So, when you wake up and there's certainly a clarity about it, so that's amazing way of inducing it. Now, there have been various areas there where people have been generally critical about hypnotherapy or psychotherapy in general, but hypnotherapy has, again, a few downsides that have been looked into. Like people often portray in a way, of gaining material gains. Like if you want to be rich, that's how you do it. There's a way of doing it, so you can crack the code. I have seen videos on YouTube actually, and then I was researching a little bit about it. So what kind of truth lies in these kind of claims?
Okay, so let me go stepwise. When you talk about psychotherapy, as I told you a while back, psychotherapy is coming from psychology as a science, and it does not need any trance-like state. So that means you are using cognitive behavioral therapy, and you're using certain questionnaires, and you are talking in a very conscious state of mind. Hypnotic trance is being brought by a therapist by practicing a very beautiful technique for a willing client. Okay? So that means hypnotherapy is done to a willing client for bringing about a physical or an emotional change. Now, there are two types of hypnotherapy. One is Eastern hypnotherapy and the other is Western hypnotherapy.
We did speak a little bit
and
about
we did
it.
speak a little bit about that as well. The thing which you are talking about, that people doing different things, and you want to be rich and you want to do this and that, is being all practiced in Eastern hypnotherapy. However, when we talk about the same change in the mindset of a client by Western hypnotherapy, we give positive suggestions.
I was under the impression like East is more about spirituality and West is about materialism. I mean, it's a whole reverse of how you're portraying it.
Yes. So it's not about the East and the West per se, the understanding what a layman has. It's about the science, how it has been drawn and brought up and practiced. So in hypnotherapy, we practice Western hypnotherapy, wherein we put suggestions into the mind of the person, bringing about a change. And then the law of attraction, what we call as, brings about an external change in the environment, enhancing the person's financial freedom, enhancing the person's relationship status.
Is that really possible?
Yes, it is possible.
Having yourself, improving your financial status just by practicing a few things, and that eventually will lead you to
Absolutely. And your favorite self-hypnosis, which we use as self-empowerment, changes your mindset. And money is not about the paper, what we earn. Money is your own energy which you yield in. Yeah?
There's something that comes into mind now. When we talk about money, now these things are supposed to be irrelevant of money. These things are supposed to be far away from money, rather than your self improvement and having the energy and understanding of energy that revolves around you in the universal matter, whatever there is. So the former context that I had of this sort of discussion, that it is more about your own personal achievements or upbringing or development, basically. It can very minimal influence over riches or rags or anything like that. So this is something new that having a combination of material as well as spirituality altogether. That's how do you amalgamate that?
Okay. Do read a very beautiful book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
Okay? And also understand that spirituality and materialism goes hand in hand. One has to create a balance.
hasn't one got to leave out a lot of things, in order to gain that kind of clarity, just like the ancient experts used to practice, the siddhas, and people used to go out and become brahmachari. They were the ones who used to claim having this kind of understanding, and they eventually had to go through a lot of hardships themselves. Respect, of course, was gained after a while, but money was again never a concern that they got into. So how does this factor come into play? And does it really, do you think it's really something that goes with the morality or the real values of this entire thing?
So Akshay, it goes like this, that in the ancient times when you used to figure out the ashrams of the life, the stages of life, we started with the brahmacharya ashram, then we went on to the grihastha ashram, and then the vanprastha ashram. We lived stages of life, and that's how the siddhas used to also function. But now as the yugas are changing, this used to happen in Satyug, remember?
Yeah.
Now when the yugas are changing and we are also now moving on from the Kali Yuga again to the golden age, we are now in the world wherein we have to live in a family, take care of our needs, day-to-day needs, we have to work, we have to create a balance between our personal and professional lives. So I do not think that anything should be stopping you to reach out to the spiritual you. What is spirituality? Spirituality is my truth. I am living the spirituality every day. So in fact, if you go back and read autobiography of a yogi as given by Paramahansa Yogananda.
I have downloaded the sample and I'm just on with it. I have read a couple of chapters of the Gita as well, so I'm down with that as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So when Mahavatar Babaji gave Kriya to Lahiri Mahashay, he said that go and give this Kriya to the householders. What does that mean? You can be in a household, earn money, live well, however practice meditation, right? So spirituality and materialism can be balanced very beautifully.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay. Makes sense. Alright, that's certainly, it's a necessity to have certain material aspects as well to live fluently, so that definitely counts in. Alright, now again we are done with the richness and materialistic aspects. Now what about the behavior that are linked and the one that it works on? Now there are certain aspects like nervousness that it helps you deal with. Even it is said to help you deal with pain and certain habits like smoking and all.
Yes.
So how does hypnotherapy touch these points? Because it cannot boost your confidence, or does it help you release certain hormones? How does that combination work?
Okay. So for that I will ask you a simple question. What is that first thing which you do to originate things in your life? What is the first thing which you do to do things in your life?
Think about it.
Yeah, you think about it. That means you have a thought. Excellent. So for doing anything in life, you have a thought. Now thoughts can be positive or negative. We are not talking about that yet. But a thought brings about an emotion. Okay? Emotion brings about energy in the body, and the energy goes into the physical body. Right? So we usually say that whatever is happening to your physical body is coming through your thoughts. Okay? So now if you are thinking positive, the emotion you're feeling is positive, the energy is high, the vibrations are moving very good in your body, and your body is full of energy and you're now going to take on to the world. When you are negative, your energy is low, the energy does not allow you to work, so you're lethargic, you're lazy, okay? You feel depressed, you feel nervous, you feel anxious, okay? You have a lot of issues in your life. It can be personal, it can be professional, it can be anything which brings you to a point of breakdown. That is the point where clinical hypnotherapy comes in. Now, the pretext is that we need to change the thought. Now the law of thermodynamics says, okay, that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can be only transformed from one form to other. So that means we have created belief systems based on our experiences. Now those experiences are stored in our subconscious mind. So that means if on a continuous basis we have negative experiences, we are feeling very nervous, fearful, anxious. So a clinical hypnotherapist in a setup goes down using certain techniques into the subconscious space wherein you help to release that negativity from your mind. You help to transmute that negative energy into positive. So it is effectively used to raise your self-confidence, boost your self-esteem, achieve your goals, and release the stress, which is the starting point of all the diseases, both emotional and physical, and so on and so forth. Second, you talked about pain. Now, whenever there is a pain in the body, pain is pay attention. Okay, so you have a child at home and you don't take care of the child, you're very busy at office and you're doing your own work and the child is bringing the drawing to you and you are just not bothered. What will the child do? The child will start crying, playing tantrums. Similarly, our body also, when wants attention, there is a pain. And whenever there is a pain anywhere on the physical body, there is an electromagnetic impulse which reaches the brain, and then the brain sends that chemical impulse back to the area where there is pain, and the pain happens. Now, what if we work on your mind, okay, and inhibit that pain receptor to the brain? Okay, because pain usually is coming in from that chemical receptor. Okay, so what do? We, in a trance state, change that state wherein your pain alleviates. So hypnotherapy very beautifully is used in pain alleviation also.
Okay, so it, as I understand it, it inhibits the release of that specific chemical, or it blocks the signal coming in?
It blocks the signal coming in.
Yeah.
So pain is when you are in distress.
Right.
And when you are in distress, it is because of certain reasons in your life.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Emotional. Everything goes down to be emotional issues. And when you work with those emotions, the feelings change. See, if you are not feeling well, okay, emotionally, and if you have a headache because of that, say your boss said something to you, or your wife or your girlfriend said something to you, and you're emotionally very low, you are definitely going to have a headache.
That's one thing pretty that I've heard on a regular basis. Common hold.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
happens.
absolutely.
So that's a reason of emotional breakdown or emotional low of
absolutely. And for a person to be completely happy, you need 4 hormones in a perfect state of balance.
I've never really had a headache before. So what does that mean?
You never really had a headache before?
No.
That means you are in a state of an equilibrium, a homeostasis state. That means you are perfectly fine. You are, dealing with everything in your life.
So, so as far as I understand, whatever thought or ideas, hypnotherapy is basically a process of inducing ideas which can lead you to a better living or a healthy living or the kind of living that you want. And then it all comes down to the way you want to do it. You want to inhibit the chemicals, you want to release some chemicals, you want to put down some thoughts. So it all is in the hands of a catalyst who is the therapist.
Usually, Akshay, we call ourselves as belief system enhancers. We are belief enhancers. That means we are not inducing anything to change the chemicals. However, that happens naturally.
But again, there is a challenge of getting the client to become a believer in you. there is that challenge, because when you are into hypnotherapy or any form of hypnosis, the other person has to be letting go or be in the same area of understanding,
Okay,
or
I get it.
be agreeable to be manipulated or be hypnotized. He has to agree to it, right? That's the basic yes or no thing. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
It is like this, Akshay, that a clinical hypnotherapist always works with a willing client.
That's like devotion.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, not like devotion, a willing client.
Willing client.
Meaning when the client comes to a hypnotherapist chamber or even calls the hypnotherapist, the client already has a lot of positive or negative notions in the mind with respect to the science. The client has already gone to allopathy, to homeopathy, to pranic, to Reiki, has gone through all the kind of alternative modalities, and now the client comes to you because now this is what I have researched, I have studied and will help me. Now the client comes here, the client is willing. In the first session we talk about the science of hypnosis, what do, we clear all the myths, we state the facts, we tell them how your mind functions, we tell them about the conscious and subconscious state of mind. And the client agrees to that very beautifully because that's a natural state of being, it's a science. Second, every person basically takes in communication differently. Meaning, Akshay, will you tell me your name?
Akshay.
Yeah. So that means I'm already, and you are all kind of surprised. She knows my name and she's saying, Akshay, will you tell me your name please? And you're kind of thinking, yeah? So that means every person thinks and then gives an answer. So there are two types of people. People who think, who process the data in their head. Other people who are very literal. They do not process. They just laugh over it. They are very literal and then they just accept things as it is. So people who accept things as it is are easy to be taken into a state of trance. People who basically think in their head, process the data in their head. Okay, what is she going to do to me? How is this going to happen? Why is she asking such a stupid question? What next is going to happen? So if the person is continuously thinking in the mind, a therapist uses a different modality to bring that person into a trance, wherein the therapist do not take the onus into her or his hands. It
lets
is
him be.
She or he lets him be and does an auto-dual induction. So there are varied varieties of induction processes by way we take the person into a hypnotherapeutic trance.
So are you okay with the clinical hypnosis being the last resort of any problem or solution? Are you okay with that? Because that is eventually the take, I would say.
That's the reason we are talking, creating the awareness to more and more people. That
what about you? Is it
modality.
logical for you to come to this hypnosis aspect as a last resort, or would you be okay with going through some other treatment first? With some other way of treating yourself with that?
So as a clinical hypnotherapist myself, I want that people should be aware about this science. Take it as a complementary science along with the other modalities also, especially in the areas where there are answers to be found out from your own mind, because everything is within. So people should be more aware. People should not take it as a last resort. People should come, explore this science, have faith in this science that this works and it works wonders. People who are using our leaders, like politicians, sportsperson, they have their own personal therapist working with them. People who are motivational therapists, people now working in the corporates, people in the hospitals. So all spheres of life now are using therapists to enhance their way of life. So why not?
What if I'm able to deal with my emotions in 6 months? It takes me 6 months of struggle.
Okay.
And I'm ready to take this struggle, and I can be okay after 6 months. So what would be your suggestion then?
So there's only one statement I would say. there are only 2% of the people in the whole world who work with their willpower. So you would work with your willpower over a period of 6 months and come over it. However, the rest 98% of them cannot work with their willpower who come to therapist. Okay? I will not again say that people do not have that willpower, but environment is always greater than the will. This is a statement given by Paramahansa Yogananda. So, when environment is greater than the will, you cannot deal with certain situations of your life on your own. If you give yourself 6 months and you're not able to come over it, you might go into a state of clinical depression. Okay, so it is better to talk, it is better to seek a help of a therapist. It is always better to lead a life which is joyful. Why do you want to lead a 6 months life and waste those 6 months in misery, in gloom?
That's one perception, I would say, of misery and gloom. That's definitely interesting. But a little bit of my research said that misery and gloom definitely bring out a lot from you. They bring out the expression that existed inside you. That expression could be in form of music, art, dance. It could be in form of XYZ, any number of things. So that eventually is an aspect that I'm willing to still take a chance, still go ahead for a struggle of 1 year. I'm okay with that if it brings out that kind of a person from me.
So I would say that have you heard about dance therapy? Have you heard about music therapy?
I have read them on your website, and I can definitely I would definitely like to know a bit more.
So not all the people would want to take hypnotherapeutic session. For them, we have alternative ways of therapy, whatever they would like to. You of course unwind when you dance, you paint, you can use different forms of therapy. It's only a way to find, to live a joyful life. However, if you want to be in a state of misery and gloom, as I said, and you want to learn through that, please do. It's a choice. Life is about choices, not about a decision.
Certainly. Yeah. And for that, we have to get the understanding of what choices are you making.
Absolutely.
That there is some kind of clarity, I would definitely like to have, and all the viewers and guests over here can have a little bit of it as well. And can we have a little bit of focus to Mr. Dasgupta as well, who has joined us on the studio today. And great, thanks to him. Would you mind? Thank you so much, sir, for joining in.
Thank you so much.
He is an expert healer himself, and he's into pranic healing. All right. Sir, would you mind telling us a little bit about pranic healing?
See, prana means energy, and see, all alternative healing has a same way of doing it. Basically, healing through any emotion healing. It's healing through. Ideally, all alternative healings has the same.
Yes.
Ideally, all alternative healing has the same way of working. Maybe modules are different, but basically, everything is about energy. So, pranic healing again is about energy, healing through energy.
We talk a lot about energy, and there's a lot still we do not understand about energy. When you say, when you wake up, certainly there's an awareness that you need when it comes to having that sensibility towards energy from the moment you get up to the moment that you sleep. So, how do you keep that consciousness on, when you're dealing with energy all through the day?
See, energy is everywhere. How you take it, that is important. So that's how things are.
So when you want to have a positive start of the day, what is the first step that you do to bring that positivity, just as rise and shine?
Wake up with smile.
Okay, that's one.
And again, I think the best energy is the sun energy.
Once I have 15 minutes of one-on-one with the sun, so it feels like the molecules in me are actually pushing ahead, and they're actually
that's what our energies are for.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. Alright, cheers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Can we have back here? Thank you. Now, I have seen a couple of videos where there is 30 seconds, you can get somebody into hypnosis in just under 30 seconds. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are quick inductions what we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, can we have just a session right here? Is that possible?
Not at the moment, actually.
I'm willing to let go of myself. And I'm willing to
No, we
get
need to prepare the person beforehand. Why? Because for that we need to do one induction earlier and then take you into a particular state of trance. I need to have a questionnaire filled up. So it's a whole procedure which we take even to do that 30-second trance.
Oh, okay.
I know you are willing, but next time give me a heads up so that I prepare myself. No. For a session, we need to plan.
No, certainly,
So we will
certainly.
definitely plan for that session. So I will send you those questionnaires and you be ready so that I will do the induction. And it would be good for the audience
I'm
to
a little bit
see.
scared as well.
I am building up that anxiety
I'm
in
a
you.
bit scared as well. That does induce some anxiety in me because I have a fear of losing control on my consciousness.
Yes,
That is a
yes,
big fear that I have.
Yes.
I'm not sure how would I deal with that.
So next time we would need a particular kind of a chair also.
Okay.
So
It's a bar chair. It's
uh,
it gets you into trance right away.
and when you fall, you'll fall on the ground.
Exactly.
So we'll do it.
Certainly, we will try it sometime. All right. Okay. Now, the subconscious that we talk about, is it awake all the time, like 24 hours a day?
Oh yes, the subconscious mind has your autonomic nervous system, which means your heart is beating, it's pumping blood, you are breathing. So these activities are happening automatically. Okay? Whenever there is a crisis situation, you have a fight and flight mechanism in your body. So subconscious mind is always awake. The day the subconscious dies, you die.
So subconscious is basically a soul?
No, subconscious.
No, I'm wrong about it. Not really soul, but it's the lifeblood.
It's a lifetime,
life inside
yes,
you.
yes,
Subconscious is basically the life inside you.
Absolutely.
So it is kind of an automatic process. It is in your DNA that
Yes.
it has been built and imbibed in that way into your DNA, and then now that's how you have been channelized. Your body has been channelized, and that's why it is functioning that way. So, do we have to term it as subconscious, or is it just the DNA working over there?
Okay. DNA is happening in your body, which is the physical body, meaning your DNA is the hardware, okay, which is the brain. So the DNA is basically the brain cell. So DNA has certain genetic codes on it, okay?
A, D, and all that.
Yeah. ACD. ATGC.
ATGC. Yeah.
Okay. Now these codes basically have your, all the traits which you take on from your ancestors. Okay. So that means we are talking about our brain, our physical body, our physical makeup. However, when we talk about the conscious and subconscious, that is the mind. So mind is a software which is a ball of energy surrounding all around you, the center of which is the pit of the stomach. So whenever you feel anxious, you feel nervous, you have butterflies in your stomach. Okay? So it is the software. Okay, so when we talk about the DNA, it's the hardware. And we talk about the subconscious, it's the software.
Subconscious is very complicated. It's not just a software, it's a combination of a lot of hormones, feelings, thoughts, and
no, subconscious is just your database, Akshay. It's just a database.
I can get my head around the notion of subconscious. I'm trying to contain it within a framework. How can I contain it within a framework?
Okay. To contain the mind in a framework, we basically have a very good model given by Dr. John Kathis, which is known as the theory of mind. Okay, so as I said earlier, your mind is a ball of energy surrounding you, the center of which is the pit of the stomach. The conscious mind is 10%, and your subconscious is the rest 90%. Now, the 10% basically is the mind which does logicking, reasoning, and then takes a decision, and based on those decisions and logics, we take the action. So pretty much whatever we do in our day-to-day life is being governed by the conscious mind. However, our subconscious mind, which is 90% more, meaning it is 6,000 times much more stronger and 9 times bigger than the conscious. Now the subconscious stores all the data, all the information which is coming from our conscious mind. That means whatever happened to you when you were in college, when you were young in school, when you were a toddler, all that is very well preserved and stored in your subconscious mind.
Have you ever read Rauf Dobelli or Nassim Taslim? Have you read?
I have heard, I haven't read.
They are actually Israeli experts on
Okay.
subconscious and conscious behavior,
Okay.
and I've been reading a couple of books about them. And pretty much they did touch upon a little bit of the pointers that you mentioned about 10% and 90%. So we are not aware about the 90% that is actually regulating the 10%. And very interestingly, they've said that whenever you think about it and you realize that whatever 10% is basically how you react to something, and 90% the 90% of what goes inside you makes you react to certain aspects that you face, and that reaction leads to 10% of your behavioral change.
Absolutely, because in the 90% of your subconscious, you have data stored as known and unknown. So known areas always gives you pleasure, and you keep on repeating it again and again and again and again. That is the area which basically creates addictions, basically creates relationship patterns. Okay? And whatever is unknown to the mind is pain. So we have to break the belief systems which are not serving you any longer. Okay? So for that you have to go to a hypnotherapist, because however you try consciously, everything is based on those experiences which are stored inside of you. Okay? So basically you have to figure out your subconscious and enhance your beliefs which are more in tune with the life you like to lead.
That's definitely the basic of all this intellect, I would say. And I would definitely suggest to go through some of those authors, because they have done this work in 1960s. They've been doing this work since 1960s, and they have explored a volume of data about this. And the best of these psychological decoders and experts are from that area of the world. So that is something definitely suggestive.
Sure, absolutely.
It's wonderful. All right. So thought leads to emotion. The effect of thought is emotion. The emotion leads to disease or is ease, and the disease or ease leads to your physical being. That's how you are present. Okay, that's how it sums up. Okay, fantastic. I also wanted to ask you one thing. I kind of forgot during the conversation. Okay, one more thing. Now, you did mention about relationship patterns. So, how does your mind play a role into relationship patterns? I have heard a little bit about it, that there is a particular qualities that you look out in an individual, that you build a relationship with. It could be something you have cultivated from the people you've seen around, or something that you have a norm in your head. So how does this work, and how does this affect you?
Let's go back to the theory of mind, the conscious 10% and the subconscious 90%. Now if we take this as a round ball and divide it into two, we have a thin line which we call as a critical filter. So when a child is born, the child starts to learn by identification and association. And slowly, from 0 to almost about 8 years, there is a critical filter which starts to develop. Now, this critical filter develops on various factors. One is definitely the social conditioning. What kind of parents I have, where do I live, how are they communicating with each other, and so on and so forth. Then comes the education. The child goes to school, the child sees other children. They also see how the teachers are communicating with them. they have a wider perspective about the world and how it is functioning. Then the economic, that means the financial status in where the child is being brought up. And last, it's the culture, which part of the world which we are living in. So the SEER, the socio-economic, educational and culture, forms the rules in the mind of a person in 0 to 8 years. All the relationships post that are experiences which the child keeps on forming and storing as known patterns in the subconscious mind. Okay? So if the child is seeing the parents not being cordial, with each other, the child is seeing frequent fights in the family, the child, is now bringing up a mistrust in himself. The child feels that there is no relationship worth trusting. The child now feels that probably there is no true love. However, on the other side, the flip side, I would say, the child would also feel that I need to develop some areas in my own self because I need to now take care of myself. So that means the rules and experiences of the conscious and subconscious mind brings in a change in the relationships or the understanding of relationships. This is one. Now, this is a very deep aspect, Akshay. Say we talk about a woman who is born and brought up in a rural area, sees a father who is very dominating, and therefore knows the males in her fraternity being very authoritative, goes to the college, connects with a person who's also very authoritative, marries a person who's very authoritative, bears a child who's also very authoritative. That means her mind knows the area where men are authoritative. So that means relationships with men will always be authoritative because that is what her mind knows. Consciously she might hate it, she might not like it, but subconsciously she's attracting a similar pattern of men in her life. So relationships we need to understand on the basis of our subconscious state of mind.
And that thing about attraction, is really that viable that even if you hate a certain quality, you're still sticking on to a certain individual or relying on a certain individual because of just that specific quality?
Yes, absolutely. Because our mind creates known patterns and the known patterns always gives pleasure to us. That's the reason lot of the women are still with men, who are bossing them around, who are authoritative.
Maybe there are very, very less viability of the other kind, maybe. They just have to make it work one way or the other, otherwise, because of, the next generation is not going to come anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. The change in the environment is playing a lot of role. The willpower, as you said, the person probably might be now becoming more aware about his or her requirements in life and takes decisions about the relationships because of that. Somewhere you have to break a pattern.
Eventually, men are generally brought up in a very authoritative way, like they see the patriarchal form of the society and they develop it very naturally. And if 80% of the guys are built up that way, so eventually 80% of ladies have to make it work one way or the other, or they have to deal with this one way or the other, otherwise they can't go around this. So
you see how we are talking about the socio-economic, educational and cultural. So we are here talking in India that 80% of the women have to make it work because that's how we are born and brought up.
It's a very good number if I'm saying 80%.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not about anything outside. It's basically how our mind is seeing things happening while we are growing up.
Okay, so eventually a lot of changes have to be made on all those forums to have the implementation in a very regulated way.
Absolutely.
All right. So this is getting pretty interesting. Now, one thing it is said about hypnotherapy that the suggestive nature of hypnotherapy is not said to be that efficient it is often looked down upon, and it's not really thought about in the healing fraternity or what can I say? Expert doctor fraternity. I mean, I would call you healers, doctors, one of the same thing. So in that fraternity is not sought out as a reliable method. So what is the deal about it? How would you break that norm?
Okay, so hypnotherapy started with a suggestive nature, meaning a lot of people still think it is worked upon by giving suggestions to the mind of the client. However, now we have researched a lot and we have gone lot beyond. That means we are now not only working on giving suggestions, but we are doing inner child work. So the science of hypnotherapy is not only suggestive therapy, but we do a lot of other therapies like the inner child therapy, age regression therapy. We work with the emotional empowerment techniques. We work with the regression therapies which help in the various stages of life to bring about a change in the nature and in the thinking about in the person's mind. So it's not only giving suggestions.
Okay. It's about inducing a thought and then trying to...
no, it's an interactive therapy what we do.
Mm-hmm.
But the person is in a state of subconscious. The interference of the conscious mind is very less. And then the person is able to very beautifully come out with the spaces while growing up which are traumatic, and the person wants to release them.
The biggest challenge I see here is getting somebody into believing in you, because if you're into any other medicinal or other sort of practice, you just take the pill, and even if you believe it or not, it will work. All right, and in this you have to just make the other your client believe, and
So we work only with willing clients, and there is nothing that we need to make them believe. When we take the person into a state of trance and the change starts to happen,
they eventually see it.
Yeah. So experiencing makes you believe. Experiencing is believing.
And apart from that, any other easy way of getting yourself out of certain habits?
So any kind of habits definitely needs to be tackled to the core. Okay, and it needs sessions which will deal with the core issue identification. However, when you are asking a technique which needs to be done quickly, there is a technique which is known as the emotional management technique. Okay, so this emotional management technique is on the pretext that we have certain points on our body which, when massaged and you say a particular statement 3 times and just take 7 deep breaths, helps you to release that particular state of the mind which you are stuck into.
Does that really happen, or do you say that happens, that's why it happens?
No, it happens because you are tapping a certain state, certain part of your body.
Okay.
So say the center part of your palm, okay, your the thymus gland here, the karate chop point here. So all these points, when tapped, there are the points where your nadis, you have 72,000 meridians in your bodies, and these meridians basically are ending at these points, okay? And when you tap those points, it generates a chemical, again an impulse, electrochemical response, an impulse, which changes that state, which is a stuck state.
So releasing an impulse and inhibiting an impulse, this happens all through the thoughts you imbibe, or is there some physical activity that is also...
You tap those points, and say a particular statement, and the changes happens very quickly.
That flows. And then how do you inhibit it? How do you stop it? By tapping points as well? Or?
You tap, you say that particular statement, and you are done.
Okay.
So you tap and you say that statement, just 7 deep breaths, and then you are done. So it's a very quick, wonderful technique.
It's like magic.
Yeah, absolutely, it's magic, and definitely like a session we can do this technique also very, very quickly.
Definitely, I'm looking forward to it. Unfortunately, I wanted to see you a while ago, but I got caught up with a little bit of studies and some exams came up. But otherwise, I would love to have a session on all these aspects, touching on all this. Now, before I let you go, A couple of questions I'm going to put you across. Sorry for that. All right. Now, it is often said that the reliability is often challenged when it comes to talking about clinical hypnotherapy, and there is a case of having delusional memories as well, or there could be hallucinations that are a part or have been called out as one of the side effects that could happen because of hypnotherapy. You could get.
This is a myth. It's a complete myth because it's a researched completely, especially in the American Health magazine, that there is about a 65% of change through counseling, cognitive behavior therapy, but there is a 90% of change in only 6 sessions of hypnotherapy in a person's state of mind. And delusions and, a
90%
state...
in 6 sessions.
Yeah, absolutely, there's a change. And delusions are never been created if a person is taken into a state of trance by a licensed clinical hypnotherapist. Okay, and the hypnotherapist knows how the person needs to be taken into a state of trance, does the work there, and then brought out from that state of trance.
Which are the most reliable credentials, do you say, when somebody goes out to seek an expert?
So in India, it's through ICA, which was earlier Clinical Hypnotherapy Institute of India, California Hypnotherapy Institute of India. But now it's renamed as ICA, which is Ekagra Karma Aparampara. And it is ISO 9001-2000 certified. So a quality certification for a hypnotherapy course. And the head, the CEO of the Quality Institute himself took the entire levels to see what happens. How can I give a quality certification to a clinical hypnotherapy program? He did that and he said, till now I was being programmed, I was hypnotized. Now I am myself, I am free. So all those...
He felt the system was a hypnosis, and now that he has broken from it, he's...
Absolutely. So this course, this science frees you more than binding you.
That basically is the freedom of your inside self is basically what we all target for, right?
Absolutely. I suggest you also take the level 1 at least.
Level 1, I think I might be on level 7, which does not exist. Alright. Now, which emotions, lead to certain specific diseases? Now, I have listed some emotions and I wanted to check them with you. If I have a pen, I'll even note that down for my reference, just to make a note of it. Now, there are certain cases that we discussed about last time, like anger. It leads to chronic cancer. It's a very high probability that an anger issue may lead to cancer. Any other specific, such kind of problems that you think because of anger might come up? Any such diseases?
So if you have a long-standing anger and that anger gets stored in a particular organ, cancer may exist. If you have a long-standing anger because of you not being able to take decisions in your life, migraines can happen.
Anger leaks certain chemicals which get coagulated somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the concept behind it.
Yes, absolutely. So as I said that there are 4 happy hormones which we need to be happy all the time in a particular balance. So when you're not happy and you're irritated and then eventually you are angry because things are not happening according to you, definitely your body and your mind secretes hormones which are stress hormones, okay, like cortisol and all. And that, breaks down into your body parts and definitely you will have diseases. Whichever part or whichever organ that particular anger romances, the disease comes up,
It will
surfaces up.
Okay. Now, one thing was that sadness or we did discuss about diabetes as well. When you crave for sweetness, when there is sadness, does that lead to diabetes, or is there any other emotion which leads to?
Yeah, absolutely. When you are devoid of sweetness in your life. People
Choose,
around
okay.
you are irritating you all the time. There is no sweetness. You have angry people. They are always commanding you.
Okay.
You are not able to do things according to your way.
Mhm.
So that lack of sweetness leads to diabetes.
Forget sugar, that's all good.
Nothing
All
to
right.
do with that.
Okay. And how about jealousy? What does this lead to? Jealousy.
Jealousy is one emotion basically which is coming from resentments which you are carrying in your heart, which means you have life experiences wherein you were not able to do enough and it is coming out of low self-esteem.
Mm-hmm. So, which disease or problem does that lead to?
Cannot pinpoint particularly, but there again goes to a whole spectrum. So if you have an issue with power and potential, then your liver gets affected. Okay. If you have issues with negativity not being flushed out of your system, then your kidneys get affected. Okay. So it depends, because jealousy comes from resentment. It's a wide spectrum.
Okay, resentment could be for any reason.
Yes,
That could be for authoritative or
anything.
for suppressive reason as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And what about doubt? What does doubt lead to?
Doubt leads to more clarity, I feel. It's good to ask questions.
Okay.
So doubt is not an emotion, it's just a state.
State.
Yeah.
Okay. Out of concern.
Yeah.
And envy. What about envy?
Envy again is a demeaning form of jealousy, which you said. Okay, which is what probably in Mahabharata was between Pandavas and Kauravas, and that's how Duryodhan was inflicted with envy. Okay, so again,
Same. Okay.
Yes.
All right. What about depression? What does depression lead to? What kind of problems can it lead to?
so clinical depression basically is a state of mind when your autonomic nervous system is now not doing fight and flight, but is in a frozen state. Okay, so it is depressurizing the mind of all the things which are now overpowering you. Clinical depression basically has about 15 markers, and out of those 15 markers, we need to have at least 5 markers over a period of 2 weeks, meaning 15 days. So that means you are very lethargic, you do not want to now go to work, you don't have any zeal for life, okay, and you have many other markers also which we check on. So depression is a state where you just give up everything, and it is a clinical state. So you should definitely talk to people. You should definitely.
And prolongated depression leads to
yes.
what?
Prolonged depression leads to a lot of
Hormonal
diseases,
imbalance.
hormonal imbalances, and suicidal tendencies also.
Certainly,
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
one thing. And then similarly it goes with the despair as well. When you
Despair again is a state.
state.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
state. Depression is a
sadness.
disease. Despair is just that, oh, I'm not able to do this, and I wanted to do this better. That's what despair is. Despair is a state before sadness.
And what does what kind of problems come with having a feeling of shame inside you? If you have that feeling of prolongated guilt or shame about something, what kind of concerns that might raise?
Shame or guilt is very, very serious. If you have shame, it brings on to guilt, and if you are guilty, again you have low self-esteem. So that of course can bring a lot of breakdowns in your body in terms of your heart functioning, not well, your heart not pumping blood, blood pressure issues, you having a stroke, and so on and so forth. Shame and guilt really needs to be clinically dealt with.
Alright. That's pretty much sums up what we had written out so far. Now, we just discussed, you mentioned that you have a daughter who's pretty much the end of her teenage. So how do you make her understand about the concept, or does she understand it already?
She understands this very beautifully, because from the age of 7 she is being seeing me, and I have done a lot of sessions. Now as she's a teenager, I've done a lot of sessions on her, especially for the focus and concentration for her studies. She had a breakdown also with certain pimples on the body also. So we can work with acne, with adolescents. We can work with issues related to you being very clear about your goals. So with adolescents, we can work with goal achievement, we can work with raising confidence, we can work with enhancing memory, and we can work with bringing in focus and concentration.
Adolescence is a very important stage, I think, where this aspect might play a very critical role in shaping,
Yes.
how you deal with yourself and people around you, and then with the changes you're seeing inside and outside. So that, I think, would be a very critical subject to look
absolutely,
into.
Absolutely.
So, does that not make her different from her colleagues, or she might have a different perspective towards life, than her friends and then people she sees around. So, can she gel up well, or is she seen like some kind of a different entity?
So she was the head girl of her school, I must say, and she gels very beautifully. In fact, she thinks of how can this be shared with her friends, shared in her school, so that people understand it more, so that people get more confidence more, and she's being taken very beautifully with open arms. In fact, I went to her school also and given many psychology talks to the students how they can take this up as a career.
Wonderful, wonderful. And to the students out there listening, quick tips for improving your focus and attention.
Oh, yes. So, very important, before going to sleep, you should definitely switch off your TV, put away your phones, and read one page every day of a good book. It can be any book of your choice, but it should be a book which is talking about raising your self-confidence and talking about how the life should be lived. You can pick up any book. When you get up in the morning, it's very important to just wake up with a smile, as I said. However, it is very important to also work on your breath. Okay? And with students, you can pick up any one statement like I am and fill in the blank. Okay? Just go with I am. So you can say I am confident or I am happy. Just fill in the blanks with that I am and continue to repeat that statement every day. You can also work with a very beautiful technique known as Tratak or candle gazing. You can just put an om on the opposite wall, or you can light a diya.
The diya practice I tried a couple of times. Maybe some teachers might have suggested that. I remember trying that out a few times in my childhood, but I don't think that made a difference. I was not very consistent about it. So.
You have to be consistent.
Yeah, I think so.
Remember, your mind only changes after 21 days.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Okay. 21 days, guys. So that's all it takes to change yourself. Alright, on that note, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been an honor, and you can't understand my fascination. The last time I revisited the episode we shot, I was like, this is such gem of information that I've got over here, and then this is another gem of a piece that I hope you have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. And it's been a pleasure having you both here. Thank you, guys. And
Thank you.